views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
I recently came across this quote from a consultant in early childhood education by the name of Sidney Gurewitz-Clements. It goes like this: art has the role in education of helping children become like themselves instead of more like everyone else. Hi, I'm George Bodarky. I'm the news director of NPR affiliate station WFUV, located on the Rose Hill campus of Fordham University in the Bronx. WFUV works to raise awareness of issues important to the communities we serve through our Strike a Chord campaign. Past campaigns have focused on everything from emergency preparedness to healthy aging to children in foster care. We're very pleased to be teaming up with BronxNet for our latest campaign focused on engaging kids through the arts. With us today are two people who take that mission very seriously. Susan Benedetto is the co-founder and president of Exploring the Arts, and Toby Boshak is the organization's executive director. Susan, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Toby, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
So Susan, let me start with you. What's the mission of Exploring the Arts?
The mission of Exploring the Arts, quite simply, is to transform the lives of young people through arts education.
How did this organization come about?
Well, I used to be a school teacher at LaGuardia. I was a social studies teacher at LaGuardia High School. And I'm very fortunate because my husband happens to be Tony Bennett. And so Tony would come and perform for the kids. And he did one day, and we were talking with some of my colleagues afterwards. And Tony would always tell the story about he and Rosemary Clooney. They started out at the same time at Columbia Records. And he and Rosemary wanted to start a school for performers. And so they went to the president of Columbia Records at the time, who was Goddard Lieberson, and he was not interested. But, you know, they always talked about it. So Tony never forgot that he and Rosemary wanted to start a school. And so fast forward about, 50 years, we're talking to some of my colleagues. And so after Tony's performance for the children, and this one colleague said to Tony, he's like, well, why don't you start a school now? And everybody just kind of fluffed it off, right? So we went home and Tony said, you know, Susan, if you're serious, I'll help you start a school. And that was 1998. And we created Exploring the Arts in 99, and we opened the Sinatra School in 2001.
The Sinatra School in Queens. The Sinatra School in Queens.
Yes, it is in Astoria, which is Tony's hometown, and that's why we wanted it there.
So
but
how much?
School, so
how much did this organization grow since its inception in '99?
Well, we went, of course, from the one school, which I personally thought that would be it, but Tony really said, you know, Susan, he's like, I want to have as many artists come out of the United States as possible. He's like, then we really command the world's respect because we encourage these young people to explore their creativity. And he said, you know, we should do this in every city. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, you know, just trying to do this from scratch in every city. And so chatting with some of my colleagues at the time, we decided, well, let's go, instead of building a school from scratch, another one, that might be a little too much because you really have to be in the store. If you're going to go to another town, you got to be there. And so we decided to go into existing schools. And because New York has always valued the arts and arts education, it was relatively, I use the term loosely, but it was relatively easy for us to go into other schools. That's where the enthusiasm was. People wanted us. So we hit on the idea of going into existing schools. After the Sinatra School was up and running, and we really felt that could be a model for other schools and doing so well. So we decided to branch out into existing schools, and we began to grow and grow. And ultimately now we're in over 40 plus schools between New York and Los Angeles. So it's been extremely gratifying, and especially to do it with just a small tight-knit organization. What Toby and the staff do, really, it's amazing. But I think we've hit on a really good framework with which to work with schools. And like Tony always says, you got to go where the enthusiasm was, and that was New York and LA. So that's where we are at the moment.
Toby, talk to me a little bit more about how the organization works, the types of programs that you have for schools.
So in both New York and Los Angeles, we partner with public schools, high schools, and now middle schools as well, to help them develop a plan to create or refine or evolve arts programs in their schools. Each school is different, and we work very closely with the principal and the leadership team made up of arts teachers as well as academic teachers to go in and evaluate what is the best plan for that school so that they can incorporate the arts in the students' curriculum over a course of 4 years, so that high school students have these sequential, meaningful, robust educational opportunities in the schools. And in the middle schools, it is the same planning process to incorporate the arts more integrated into the academic programs so that these middle school children are ready for high school and more in-depth education in the arts when they get to high school. That program, which we term our 4-year plan program, is the tentpole for everything that we do from there on in. Every school that partners with us in the 4-year program then is eligible to have students apply for internship opportunities where we match students with arts and cultural organizations around New York City as well as Los Angeles. And in this environment, the internships are happening virtually, and we're so pleased that they're continuing, and that each student has a mentor that helps to identify what they're looking for in an internship and is able to help them realize their own professional as well as artistic and self goals. We also have a program called the Lang Art Scholars Program, which is funded by the Eugene Lang Foundation. And this is in New York. It selects very talented students who really are on the path to becoming artists, as Susan mentioned, for these kids who really could use that extra help in arts training as well as career and college preparedness. This program gives them an intensive 3-year opportunity to partner with arts training organizations. Some of our arts training partners are the Barrow Group and Broadway Bound Kids and the Martha Graham School, each helping these kids get that leg up in their arts training. And then we offer them workshops on Saturdays that help their career and college preparedness, from writing essays to SAT and ACT prep. These students also pre-COVID were able to go and see Broadway shows and performances, many of the students expressed that it was the first time that they had been able to see such performances, and that really spoke to them significantly.
Yeah, Toby, I want to talk to you more about how you have been pivoting, or how you pivoted in the face of COVID-19. But Susan, let me ask you, talk to me more about the kids you're reaching through this program, specifically the types of kids that you're reaching, the opportunities that you're providing to them that they wouldn't have had otherwise, as Toby referenced.
Well, we seek out schools and kids that are looking for opportunities and come out of challenging environments and in challenging schools. So like I say, when we go across and see a variety of schools in any city, but particularly New York and LA, and you see that there is that inequality in distribution of opportunities and resources, we want to go in where those kids are challenged and excited for the opportunity to learn in the arts. So yeah, we're in the underserved communities, and very proud of that. And those are where the kids are most hungry. I keep saying it. Tony always says, go where the enthusiasm is. Those are the enthusiastic kids that really want the opportunity to be creative and to really make it in the arts. And that's where we love to go. And those are the types of kids we want to work with.
Is there a particular
Indeed.
story? Oh, go ahead, Toby.
I was just going to add that indeed most of the schools that we are partnering with are considered Title I schools and really have a preponderance of students who come from low-income homes.
What are the challenges those schools typically face when it comes to art programs, Toby, before you come in and assist them?
Many times it's funding. The Department of Education, both in New York and in LA, will support the schools to a certain degree, and the schools need both additional resources and additional funds to help their arts team get programs off the ground. There's also the challenge of having the principal and the schools really buy into committing to developing a full, robust arts program. And once you identify that leadership in the school that really wants to see this happen, our program staff will work with them to ensure that they can realize some of the goals that they have.
How do the arts help to foster student engagement and learning outside of the arts in other areas of education? How does this benefit them?
Being that I was a social studies teacher, it was easy for me to incorporate the arts. But anytime, you know, studies show anytime you just get the child in the building, they're going to do better in school. You know, showing up is half the battle. And then if you get them, if you can teach them any discipline through something that they love and are, you know, and are interested in, they will do better. And like I say, through the arts, they are able to discover who they are in a group, how you can communicate with that group. It's not just about the individual, but it's how you relate in an ensemble or in a, you know, in a classroom. And even if you're a painter, it's still, how is your work going to relate to others? So, you know, once they see what you've done. So I think that whole collaboration, creative thinking outside the box, that's invaluable. You know, you want to train someone to learn how to think and be creative, and they will succeed in any subject area.
Echoing what Susan said, the research, you know, is there. We've seen it time and time again that the arts promote creative thinking, critical thinking, team building skills, self-awareness, confidence. It really, perseverance, you know, all of the things that kind of make us human beings and who we are, both as individuals and as a collective. The arts feed into that and really help us learn about one another, appreciate one another, and be able to be a community together.
Susan, is there a particular story that stands out to you most over all of these years, a student that you remember most in working in this program?
Oh, you know, no, not any one particular student. I mean, there's some that I've stayed in touch with, and it's fun to see the, you know, them now as young adults go out and, you know, be performing and writing and doing some nonprofit work. Some have gone into teaching. It's really just an overall, I mean, I'm sure if I thought really hard, I might be able to come up with one, but just really an overall, it's a tremendous sense of excitement and gratification when you see these young kids, because as an educator, I always want a school to be a place of joy. And regardless of, you know, I was a nervous wreck as a kid studying for exams and stuff, but, you know, basically learning should be exciting. It should be joyful. And to be a part of instilling that in a school community so children can learn with joy is everything to me. And I also see it, you know, of course, this is a big part of Tony's legacy, which gives me a great joy. But I'll say one thing that sticks out in my mind. I've told this story before, but I think it's an amazing thing and very true. It's not about a student, but it was about our first graduating class. And Tony, of course, came to speak, and Peter Vallone, who helped us get the Sinatra School started, was there, and Harry Belafonte was there, and Seinfeld. I mean, it was just a plethora of these magnificent artists who know the importance of giving back. and we had the late Governor Mario Cuomo speak. And at the end of his remarks, he said something that I love. And he said, you know, a nation gets its soul from the arts, not from its military, not from its economy, but it gets its soul from the arts, and thereby gives hope to the world. So he challenged the graduates to go out and give hope to the world.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Stuck with me since, what was that, 2004, our first graduating class. I never forgot it. I thought, what a magnificent thing to even be a little tiny part of that.
Yeah.
To inspire those youngsters to give hope to the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Toby, how long have you been involved with the organization?
I just celebrated 1 year a
Hey.
couple of days ago.
In spite of COVID, and she's been magnificent.
I was going to say, wow, what a year it's been for you.
What a
So,
year.
yeah, let's talk about how you've had to sort of pivot. Again, there's that word pivot in the midst of this pandemic.
Yeah, I think the words pivot and pandemic are now two of the most used words in our English language.
Yes.
Absolutely. As we said, I've been there a year, but the team at ETA, the program staff, has been there for a couple of years, if not longer. And they're an incredible group of people. They're brilliant and talented and really understand what is needed in the schools and with the students that we serve. So in the 4-year plan, which again is our core program, we have actually been working with the schools to take a pause on the specific program as it stood as our business as usual, which simply could not be realized when we're not learning hands-on and in the schools in both cities. But instead, we've worked with the teachers and the schools in both cities to come up with 3 areas that could really support them in this time. One is some grants that really do help them get supplies in the hands of students and recording devices or video devices so that the students can interact with the teachers. We've also had the opportunity to facilitate professional learning communities amongst teachers across both cities. So we have visual arts teachers communicating with visual arts teachers in New York communicating with the visual arts teachers in LA and sharing best practices and resources that have helped them get through this time and be more efficient and more effective at working with their students. And lastly, we are working on professional development workshops, creating professional development workshops for the teachers to increase their capacity to teach their arts form with a lens of socio-emotional learning, knowing that all of these students are going through so much in their personal lives that they have to contend with that really does come to the classroom, and teachers have to know how to grapple with that. Our arts internship program, which again is thriving in even a remote setting. Over the summer, we had paired individual students with mentors, and those individual mentors led the students on independent projects that they created with the guidance of this caring adult to help them feel connected to someone and prepared and learning their art form and exploring it. As we've moved into the school year, these same students now are seniors in high school, and they've been with our arts internship program for 2 years, and they are working with our arts partners on an internship that is meaningful to them. Art making as well as professional skills that they need to develop when they go out into the either college or career world. One student comes to mind in particular, a student who went through the summer program and created an independent project in stop motion film. And just last week, she worked with her internship coordinator and with her mentor to teach stop motion film to elementary school students. And she would not have had that opportunity if she didn't come through this independent project that she worked with all summer. So it's an example of how students can really take what is afforded them even in an online situation and really gain from it and give back in that scenario.
You touched on this, Toby, but I was going to ask you the question about how the arts are helping young people, really all of us, I guess, get through this pandemic. Many of us are relying on the arts to help keep us sane and to help drive us forward. But can you talk about the importance of the arts? The arts are always important, but especially during a challenging time like this.
Another meaningful quote comes to mind at an event I was at where Mikhail Baryshnikov spoke, and his view on the arts is that the arts heal us, and in very few other times than now do we see people turning to the arts both as a creative outlet, whether it's art making themselves or watching or listening to videos, movies, music. The arts are really helping us contend with what's around us. And in many cases, our students have expressed that the arts have helped them express their feelings and communicate what they're feeling inside but can't verbalize necessarily. They'll create intricate visual art pieces that tie all of these elements together that are going on in their head and represent it in a visual arts piece or in a dance that just really evokes how they're feeling. And it's so important now for students young people to be communicating these feelings and not holding them inside. And it's healing.
In a moment, we're going to be joined by one of the principals that you're working with, Ingrid Chung. But before we do that, Susan, any final thoughts that you have, anything you want to add?
No, George, thank you so much for showing the interest in exploring the arts and what we do. And we're thrilled for the opportunity to let you learn a little bit about us.
Susan,
and your listeners, of course.
Susan, thanks so much, and our best to Tony, and happy holidays to you. One of the Bronx schools that partners with Exploring the Arts is the Urban Assembly School for Applied Math and Science. Principal Ingrid Chung joins Toby and I now to continue our conversation about the impact of the arts in student achievement. Ingrid, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Toby, Ingrid is one of the many principals that you're working with here in New York City, right?
Yeah, she's the principal of the Urban Assembly for Applied Math and Sciences in the Bronx and has been a partner with us for the past 4 years and just finished or graduated from our 4-year plan partnership that we were delighted to work with her on.
Ingrid, tell me about your school's involvement with Exploring the Arts.
Yes, so we have been with Exploring the Arts for the past 4 years, and they have worked with us very closely in really refining our arts curriculum and ensuring that we have a strong scope and sequence that will be sustainable beyond the grant. This has led to a really strong foundation for our arts team, giving us the opportunity to really engage with one another and really think fluidly on how do we build a scope and sequence in grades 6 through 12. Specifically, this year, we've had a ton of really wonderful work that our kids have been engaged in because of Exploring the Arts. Our photography students are using SLRs to take compelling snapshots of their lives. Our We Make Movies students, in conjunction with Apple and the LA-based film production company We Make Movies, are creating short documentaries on being a teenager and almost graduating senior during COVID-19 using the newest iPhones. Our musicians were able to borrow and take home their instrument of choice to independently study and practice. And really all of this could not happen without the support of ETA and ETA staff.
So Ingrid, talk to me more about your school and how the arts help students even outside of simply allowing them to be creative and expressing themselves through the arts.
So for me, there is really a plethora of literature that really speaks to the connection between the arts and our traditional cores. Simply put, young people who engage in creative thinking and art and music making are really better academics and scholars. There is a natural inquiry and revision process that exists for anyone who engages in the arts. A deep reflection of the self and humanity as a means to create something that is significant, new, and beautiful for the world. The search for perfection as one practices his or her art making over and over again. A focus on precision, creating a deep attention to detail, a love and curiosity of the world that really can only be created through art and by artists, a true awe and wonderment of really everything around. And these are all habits of mind that successful students have that are only made stronger by early exposure and engagement in the arts.
What about during this particular moment in time, during COVID and during a time when we are fighting against systemic racism in this country at a much larger scale?
Yeah, this has definitely been a very, very challenging time for all of us, particularly my students in the Bronx, where we were disproportionately impacted by the effects of both COVID-19 and systemic racism. And so we know that the arts have incredible abilities to give students the opportunity to share their stories. One of our foundational beliefs, or two of our foundational beliefs at AMS, is really that art is powerful and is deeply embedded in what makes us each human. And all of our kids really have a powerful voice and distinctive set of stories to tell. And I always tell my arts team, right now, our kids are really creating art every single day, whether in the confines of their homes, outside while getting some precious fresh air, or boundlessly on the interwebs or on Zoom. The pandemic and remote learning structures have meant that in so many ways, our students are working and learning in increasingly isolating spaces, just like us, at a time when social interaction is critical for adolescent development. As such, arts curriculum and education helps dissipate that isolation and trauma, serving as a bridge between peoples. The arts connects us with the deeper parts of humanity, to one another, to our collective consciousness. It allows us to self-express and share our stories and lived experiences, particularly during a time when our students are surviving these twin pandemics, or even triplet pandemics, as people like to say. And moreover, it really heals us from our collective trauma, providing us solace and empathy while reminding us all that we are not alone. The arts help us document this time in history. It helps us shed light on the truth, and it really helps our students develop into deep thinkers, champions of humanity, and young leaders.
Ingrid, thank you and continued success to you.
Great, thank you so much.
And that's all the time we have for this special collaboration between public radio station WFUV and BronxNet, focusing on engaging kids through the arts. For more information about the organization Exploring the Arts, check out exploringthearts.org. Strike a Chord is on the web at wfuv.org/strikeachord. I'm George Bodarky. Thanks so much for being with us.